and get started. Realize we may still have some additional members and other guests join in, but more than anything, we've got a great agenda. So I welcome everybody. Thank you for board members in particular for your continued service. Great to see your faces. And as a reminder, and you heard Britt mention it at the beginning, this meeting is being recorded, and that she will share a link to the webinar recording along with the presentation slides with everyone. So you don't have to record it yourself. Something like that will be coming if you want to be able to go back and hear what's said, maybe if you didn't catch notes on it. We're going to have a number of guest speakers today, and they forwarded their bios all to you, but my gosh, what an august group. I had to say that because we're in August, but what great skills and what interesting stories too. We've had Stacy on several times before, but just to be reminded that she received a silver award from the U.S. Department of Commerce. Great that she later got to go on and work with them. Has already worked though in state and regional capacity. Ben McGill to have focused in on Spanish and Latin American studies at Oklahoma State before coming here. It sounds like you had a plan, or someone else had a plan for you in going in that route in the beginning. Aaron Bencomo, my gosh, in addition to all the biochemistry and philosophy training, to have worked with and play for the national Mexican national lacrosse team, and then to be involved with the Monterrey Rayados CF, the Liga MX franchise. My gosh, what a great sports background. And Sally, anybody who's been involved with Hospital Council Foundation that long has some tremendous skills. Hers didn't go into as much of maybe some background about what some of her passions are. So maybe she'll tell us a little bit about some of that and share some of that in the middle of her presentation. But we've got a great agenda set up, and just make sure, and if you haven't looked at their bios, take a look at that. For any of our guests that join the meeting, we encourage you to use the chat feature for questions or comments you may have during the meeting, and then Jerry Watson of the COG staff will be monitoring the chat and making sure we see those questions as time allows. And then just remember, as we've started doing over time, this isn't the first meeting we've done this, but it's a great asset to have. The Zoom webinar provides us with a record of board attendance, so we don't have a need to take attendance, which is nice. We do, however, need to take action before we get into these presenters on the minutes of the May 1st, 2023 North Central Texas Economic Development District board meeting minutes. So hopefully all the members have had a chance to glance at those. Do we have any amendments that are necessary, or can I get a motion to accept them?
Marty, this is John Smith. I'll make a motion to accept the May 2023 minutes.
Excellent.
And I'll second that motion.
Brent, did you or Jerry get the second?
I heard two voices, so I wasn't sure who that was. So could we have the second again, please?
Chris Dicer, thank you. All right. So we've got a motion and a second, and if y'all are okay, I just suggest we accept them by acclamation, and then move into our guest presenters.
Yes.
So thank you. All right. Let's get an update from Stacy Webb. We've had her on before. We're so grateful to have her come and talk to us about the Economic Development Administration. Stacy, thank you for being with us today. Let me hand the ball over to you and let you give us somewhat of an update on what's going on with the EDA, please.
Sure. Thank you, Marty. And I don't have anything to share, Pritt, so I'm not going to share screen, just provide a quick update here. I'm not going to go into, who EDA is. Hopefully you're familiar with our programs. And if not, please contact Pritt or myself, and we'll give you a full rundown. But what I am going to do is just kind of provide a brief update on what our open grant opportunities are right now. We've had a lot going on this summer. We've launched new programs. We have a lot of national competitions that come out in the summer. And that, I think, combined with a lot of other federal agencies that have also have new funding coming out, it's really, I think, been a bit overwhelming. So I know y'all really appreciate Pritt's emails that keep you updated and try to help clarify these different opportunities. So I'm just going to go over again just the open grant opportunities, or NOFOs, if you're familiar with that term. So regarding our regular program, the Public Works and Economic Adjustment Assistance Program, we have spent all of the 2023 funds at this time. However, we have an open application cycle. So we're already accepting applications for FY24. Of course, there are no funds yet, but we accept applications, review projects, and kind of build a pipeline for that October 1st funding, hopefully. These two programs, the Public Works and Economic Adjustment Assistance, or EAA is the easier way to use that program acronym. These two programs really are our largest programs. And they fund the traditional infrastructure like water and wastewater, roads, drainage, rail, broadband. And I brought this up in May, but I also want to remind everyone that, we can also, through these two programs, fund business incubators and accelerator hubs, labs and makerspace and workforce development projects, and just general business assistance programs as well. We can fund construction and non-construction for any of these type activities. The average award is around $1.5 million. The eligibility and the match rate are determined by the economic distress level in the project area. And that's something that, we determine, or again, PRIT can help you determine. So that's the regular program. So if you're interested, we are accepting applications. I do encourage you to get something in earlier in the fiscal year, as we do, fund as projects come in, and so we can run out later in the fiscal year, as we are out of money now for 23. So our two new national programs are still open. The regional tech hubs closes next week, so I'm not going to talk about that, because if you're not involved in that, it's really too late at this point. But the Recompete pilot program is open until October 5th. Now, this program targets areas where the prime age, that being 25 to 50, 54 years old, that the unemployment in that age range significantly trails behind the national average. This is a two-phase competition, with phase one being for the plant approval. It also can provide up to $500,000 for strategy development activities, no match required. Those selected out of the phase one go on to phase two. Phase two awards will be anywhere from $20 to $50 million, and they're going to fund a collective group of projects that work together, construction and non-construction, projects that are cohesive and work together to help address that unemployment issue in that age range and get jobs in those areas. So eligibility has already been predetermined. Eligible communities have been identified. That was outlined in the legislation. That was something that was already set when we were appropriated. And so the eligible areas are based on statistical data, and it's just very clear. It's the unemployment percentage in that prime workforce age range as compared to the national average. We have a map. It's on EDA's website that will show if your area is eligible, but I strongly, strongly encourage you to contact PRIT if you're interested, because you only have access to one map. If there's a question, if you're in what's called partial eligibility area, there's a second map that PRIT will have to look at and help you determine if you're eligible. And the reason that wasn't made public is simply because the data is so heavy on that platform that making it open to the public would simply crash the site. So there wasn't a technical way to make that particular map eligible. But please, check the program out. We have lots of resources. We have a lot of webinars. If you have any interest, please listen to the webinar first. It's going to give you a ton of information. I'm going to drop the website in the chat, unless PRIT, you've already done that. Okay, great. So PRIT's got it in the chat, and you can watch the webinars, and then I said just follow up with PRIT or myself if you're interested. Now, I said I wasn't going to talk about the closed grant opportunities or closed NOFOs, but I do want to mention our University Center competition. It closed last month in July, but I wanted to mention it. It's a 5-year award for universities, colleges, tech schools, higher institutions of higher education to provide support to business and industry, entrepreneurs, and just economic development in general. So it only comes around once every 5 years, but I wanted to mention it because we got a lot of activity out of Texas. We've received 12 applications from Texas. 3 of those, I'm happy to report, were in the North Central Texas EDD. So I'm very hopeful that we can get one awarded in this area. And then lastly, I just want to mention this. I think at some point, maybe in the fall, I'd love to work with PRIT to maybe arrange a presentation on EDA's economic development tools. I think they're really underutilized and there's some really great stuff there. We've launched quite a few new tools recently, one called the Nerdy, if you're interested in taking a look at it. I think you'd be really surprised though at the amount of information that's available. And they've also organized it in a way that you can look at it by region. The North Central Texas EDD is its own region, so you can look at it from there, or you can certainly zoom into your own communities. But you know, we have information, it's all collected information on different data points, but you can determine your economic opportunities. You can use the innovation index. We have an industry cluster mapping tool. So it's really great stuff. I would love for y'all to take a look at it. Again, I'll drop that in the chat. That's really all I have today. I am really looking forward to the Dallas College presentation this morning. I'm excited to hear from Ben and his folks about the progress they've made. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'm happy to set up a time to talk if we need to discuss any of the programs in detail. Thanks.
Thank you, Stacy. Anybody have any questions or anything you want to bring up for her before we let her go? Myself, I'm thrilled to hear about some of the tools that you mentioned that I think it would be great for everybody to get to hear about or hear about again, if we're already familiar with them, just so that we're armed and most prepared. So thank you, Stacy. And I'm, as you can imagine, I'm quite curious about who those universities are that made the application. And like you said, we'll look forward to seeing at least one, hopefully, being selected. So
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a great day. Thanks for being with us as always, Stacy. And we hope you, like you said, you're going to hang on and listen into this next presentation. As you're aware, we've had discussions in the past about this growing entrepreneurship ecosystems that's been coming into play. You're aware that our board and district has really intentionally focused on during our meetings on the goals and objectives of the CEDS. And today's presentation will delve into some of those goals with a strong emphasis on creating a globally competitive and diverse skilled workforce for the future, for this region's economic resiliency and sustainability. And with that in mind, I want to make sure and welcome again Ben McGill with Dallas College, Dr. Aaron Bencomo with biotech, BioNTX, which we've begun participating in, and I know a lot of us have, and we personally in Grand Prairie have, and I know a number of you have already. And then Sally Williams, who we mentioned again, is with the Dallas-Fort Worth Hospital Council Foundation to the meeting today. And I think either all have individual presentations or a combined one. I'll hand the ball off to Ben and let y'all coordinate with Prit, and we'll look forward to hearing what you got to share with us, Ben.
Okay, thanks a lot, Marty.
Thank you.
Appreciate the introduction, appreciate your leadership of this board, and thanks to Prit for keeping us all organized and informed. Stacy was right about those emails. Seem like something really simple, but they are very effective and very powerful in getting all these opportunities on everybody's radar. So thanks to Prit as well. Thanks for the opportunity to be able to present today. As Marty mentioned, I have a couple of my partners here in this effort. We're going to tag team a little bit. I'm going to take you through a little bit of a quick history, a quick update on the biotech industry, life science industry here in DFW, and then I'll hand it off to my partners, Aaron and Sally. You're going to talk about where we are today with the project and where things go from here. So with that, I will attempt to share my screen. Okay, we see that okay? All right, we're in full screen.
Good, looks good. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So in case you haven't seen these articles, which I'm sure that you have, biotech and life sciences is booming in North Texas. Why is this important? Because we're all here to create opportunities, create jobs, We're seeing a lot of activity in biotech and life sciences. We can get into it a little bit later on, some of you might be asking, what is biotech and life science? It's not common knowledge, something we talk about in the same way that we talk about, manufacturing or construction. So I'll say for now that the definition is kind of what we decide in DFW. And, right now there tends to be a lot of activity in biomanufacturing. So manufacturing either medical devices or new vaccines, for example, and pharmaceuticals and things like that. So a lot of activity going on in the region. Many of you know, and a lot of this is certainly happening in your community. So you're no stranger to this, but in this region, we're just seeing a tremendous amount of investment in research and development in life sciences, which we know that through technology commercialization, that R&D can turn into companies and therefore investment and jobs, et cetera. Over $131 million in NIH funding, National Institutes of Health, $72 million plus from the CPRIT funding, which is the Cancer Research Fund through the state of Texas. UT Southwestern is, of course, #1 globally for publishing high quality scientific research. So just, these next few slides are really about just understanding the enormous amount of assets that we have in the region. Tremendous academic institutions, a ton of STEM graduates, 52% of which remain in the region after graduation. So we're retaining a good portion of that STEM workforce. Lots of investment going on in North Texas companies over the past 5 years. There was a new acquisition just last week, I believe, Reata Pharmaceuticals, to the tune of, I believe it was 7 billion, maybe something like that. Enormous acquisition in life sciences. So again, pointing to just reinforcing this local intellectual capital. All of these institutions are doing tremendous R&D in biotech and life sciences. One of the things that really stuck out to me a couple of years ago was hearing from a UT Southwestern researcher and serial entrepreneur who said, they were doing this world-class research, but not able to commercialize that research here in North Texas. They were having to go to the respective coasts to get that investment, to find the workforce, to create those companies and create those jobs. So as an economic development professional in North Texas, that was unacceptable to me. There seems to be no reason we shouldn't be able to help that company get started and grow here. So that's what we're here to do. So again, there's just, over the last few years, there's been an enormous amount of energy and investment, both public and private, in developing a biotech hub. What we've come to find out as we've dug into this is many companies in biotech and life sciences already have a presence here in Dallas, and they may have another part of their operations in North Carolina or in San Diego, some of these places where you might already know there is an established biotech hub. They're looking to Texas as a next frontier. Many of them with already having set up shop here. Of course, to really have great growth and research commercialization and startups, we need an ecosystem, right? And so we're going to talk to you a little bit about how Dallas College and our partners stepped up to help build that ecosystem. But it takes incubators and accelerators, and it takes corporate involvement, and it takes building that workforce to support that industry growth. Again, just you all know this, lots of wins, lots of growth happening, lots of partners in the region. However, what you may not know is that we still have certain parts, and this is specifically looking at the Dallas-Fort Worth areas where educational attainment is still low, right? And where we are not seeing good jobs grow. And kind of the perfect segue into the Good Jobs Challenge, which was issued coming out of the deep pandemic times. the EDA was really concerned about how do we invest in those communities that were really hit hard by the pandemic, those underserved communities, those areas of the Metroplex of North Texas where folks were largely employed in retail, right? Hospitality, things that jobs that have no insulation from some kind of economic shock. So the idea was, how do we create good jobs in these areas? How do we help those folks in those underserved areas to have some insulation from those future economic shocks? So this is the type of work that, the Dallas College is involved with on a day-to-day basis. So we are a regional education anchor. We've got thousands of students coming from ISDs all over the county and beyond. And thousands of those students go on to our regional four-year institutions. So when we started talking about, building a coalition to go after this Good Jobs Challenge Award, it was not a stretch for us. We decided to build a coalition. We decided to go after the Good Jobs Challenge grant through EDA. We were supported by Lyda Hill Philanthropies, who is an outstanding organization that has spent an enormous amount of money and energy and influence in creating and growing the biotech life sciences hub in North Texas. So we're very grateful for their support and their encouragement. What you see on the screen here is the collaboration that we built for the Good Jobs Challenge Award. So Dallas College is the lead entity. Our other partners being Collin College, Tarrant County College, University of Texas at Arlington, as well as Bio North Texas and DFW Hospital Council. Both of those organizations you'll hear from here in just a minute. What we wanted to do was create a regional biotechnology training ecosystem to meet the growing demand of that biotech and life sciences sector. At the same time, target those folks who were really hit hard by the pandemic and help them get into entry-level careers in biotech, right? So use this kind of perfect storm of the growth in this sector and also, the workforce needs and, the great opportunity that something like this, to create and go into not just a job, but a career, something that's got some upward mobility is super important to us and super important to EDA. So we were successful in winning that Good Jobs Challenge Award, $8.8 million. You can see some of the other investments that were made around the country. You can see it was a smattering of different types of organizations that were lead entities or backbone organizations, from business associations to two-year colleges like us, to local government, etc. Like I said, when we looked into the target populations for this opportunity, it was really folks in underrepresented communities, neighborhoods, largely employed in retail and service sector jobs that were really wiped out by the pandemic. And so the whole idea is, how do we upskill these folks and get them into careers with some upward mobility? What you're looking at here as part of the application was to work with bioscience, biotech, life science companies to understand what the job growth was going to be, because a big component of this grant was getting employers involved, getting employers to say, we're going to be hiring a lot of people, our companies are growing, you train them the way that, that we need them, train them with the skills that we need them, and we will hire them. So we went out and got these employer commitments, got them to tell us what kind of jobs they're creating, what kind of jobs they're going to be trying to fill over the next few years. And that is really, I don't want to steal too much thunder from Aaron and Sally. They're going to talk a little bit more about where that is today. But that is a little bit of the background. This is our project scope. We are, I'm happy to say, although things sometimes move slow in the setup, we are approaching that year one. We're about to come, September 1st will be the end of year one, where we've been, going through that program design phase. So figuring out how we're going to do marketing and community outreach, working on curriculum, how are we going to provide those wraparound services like childcare and transportation and things like that. What are the pathways, a word we like to use a lot in education, what are the pathways into the type of training program we're going to set up, and what are the pathways out? What's the next step? So a lot of work between all the partners on that. Importantly, and I think this is the best segue, a lot of work has been done over the last several months on our industry advisory committee and that industry engagement. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Aaron and Sally and let them take the wheel to talk about the industry advisory committee and some of the other activities that are going on currently, where we're going next. But before I do that, real quick, I just want to plug for those that want to keep this conversation going, learn some more about biotech and life sciences and what's going on in this space. There's an event August 10th at University of North Texas Health Science Center in Fort Worth. That evening starts at 5 p.m. So check that out if you're interested in learning more about biotech and life science. Okay, I'll stop. Aaron, Sally, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Excellent, Ben. Many thanks.
Great presentation, Ben. Thank you so much. And if it's all right with everybody, I will now try to share my screen.
Please do.
There we go. Can everybody see that all right?
Sure can, Aaron. Thank you.
Fantastic. So kind of piggybacking, first of all, thank you so much for having us. My colleague Sally Williams and I, we're gonna double team this presentation for you this morning, and hopefully no hitches. So we would really like to kind of piggyback off what Ben was saying, which was that, within the scope of the grant that we were awarded, we had to then create, first a game plan, right? We had to find out what exactly this would take from the community, from the partners. And we realized that this was going to be a two-pronged approach for many intents, and it would be one, an educational component, and then another would be an industry council or an industry partnership component that would help dictate what would be needed for the educational component, correct? And so what we created was the BioWorks for North Texas, which would be the educational component that's being handled largely by Dallas College, our partners at Collin and Tarrant County. And the apparatus known, we've come to love it. It's called the BIONT. Most people have trouble with it, but it's the BIONT, the BEYONT, but the Biotechnology and Healthcare Industry Alliance of North Texas. And right off the bat, I think a lot of people would perhaps think, well, this is, strikingly similar to a focus group. And I'm here to tell you that that is not at all the case. What we love to think of this as is, yes, it is an industry advisory council, but where this begins to differ is that we have let industry take the lead on dictating not only the tempo, the speed, the timelines, but also the priorities that they want to establish going forward. And so the BIONT, as an idea, what is it? Well, it is an industry advisory council, and it is an industry sector partnership where we've taken biotechnology and healthcare sectors and have them convene and establish common ground and common needs. And so what is our goal with this? Our goal has been, well, essentially, like Ben has, I'd like to echo what Ben said here, which is we want to provide employers with a talented labor pool, and we want to create jobs. We want to create high paying quality jobs in these spaces, in biotech, in biomanufacturing. Obviously, this is going to address regional talent shortages that we have in the region, because this is something we talk about quite often is, traditionally speaking, and this is from an eco-dev standpoint, which, mind you, my background is in clinical medicine, but I've quickly learned that historically, I guess the problems that people would have when starting an operation somewhere would be, well, do I have space? Do I have, a turnkey space? And do I have funding? Am I going to have incentives? But that is no longer the case. And now really what we hear from the industry is, do you have a workforce for me? Do you have a talent pool? Am I going to have to bring people from the coasts and have to relocate them? And so those are some of the issues that we're trying to address here. Obviously, at the same time, we want to really provide an opportunity for historically underserved residents, these marginalized communities. And strictly speaking, we're talking about certain parts of Dallas, certain zip codes, people of color, women, just any kind of group that has historically perhaps been not necessarily given the best access to these pathways. And the idea here is obviously to end intergenerational poverty, to really help people just change their trajectories from one generation to the next. And largely, we want to position North Texas as an industry leading hub. We want that title. I myself am from Houston, and so I've grown up in the medical center my whole life, and for me to be able to speak to a group in North Texas about the differences between the two, and it's just very clear how Houston is its own entity and has a history of being the medical center in MD Anderson, but North Texas has this really great characteristic that I love to tell people about, which is that we're emerging, and that in that sense, nobody has the luxury of being at odds with each other yet. So everybody is pulling this boat together and Ben has used this euphemism before, which is we're building this plane in the air. And it's a great way to look at it because it's true. There's no real ceiling for us here. And I think, Ben, you highlighted this as well, talking about there's just so much space here to be developed. There's so many great infrastructure in place with the universities, with the collaborative spirit between them. And it's really it goes without saying, it's something that I, in my own personal career, have not really found anywhere else. That being said, in so few words, by promoting this regional competitiveness and economic growth, the idea is that the buy-in will then outlive the grant and become a pillar institution for the industry, and will be a reference point for the industry going forward. And so when we finally created this entity, we created the marketing for it, we created, the logos, we did our outreach. We had a really fantastic launch meeting at the end of June with Swiss America CDMO. That's a contract drug manufacturer in Farmers Branch. That's a multinational conglomerate that has their headquarters here in biomanufacturing. Really amazing space, huge company. And so we're very thankful for them for partnering with us on that. But the idea here for the launch meeting was obviously to convene these industry C-suites exclusively, from CEOs, COOs, CFOs to chief science officers, and really help foster those peer-to-peer connections, and help them understand that, the problem you may have in medical device development may be similar to a problem that we have in, biologic development. And that to make them understand that though we are in different subsectors, there is a commonality between all of us, and that whatever problems we have together, we could probably fix them, right? And so what did we do? We identified the shared priorities, and we're going to get into those in just a moment. But obviously we had to clarify what's important to the industry and how do we think we can have an impact on it. And so to do that, we had a really great 2-hour meeting where it was very rudimentary in the sense that, you take it back to elementary level when you're just having people fill out cards and express their concerns with the industry. And once we did that, we really successfully got, I think, close to 15 industry champions to really say, okay, well, this is something I would absolutely like to commit my resources and my time to, which is another thing that really separates us from a focus group, because these CEOs are champions of their own priorities. And here I will hand it off to Sally.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. So as was introduced earlier, I'm Sally Williams. I'm with the Dallas-Fort Worth Hospital Council. And I will tell you, it's been a pleasure to work jointly on this with my colleague, Aaron, with the kind of representing the biotech industry and me on the hospital side of things. So it has been a really interesting collaborative that we've been able to put together along with Dallas College leadership and the other education partners as well. I will tell you, when the grant was put together, a lot of it really focused on workforce development kind of thinking when we put this grant together. Well, when we got our business partners together, our Biant Industry Advisory Council, believe it or not, workforce really came to the top. We were willing to hear anything that they were thinking might be affecting their industry, and that, it could be things other than workforce. But that was some of the top discussion and actually the next steps that they wanted to work on. Here in this slide, we came after that meeting in June, we came out of it with 3 action areas and put together action teams to really work more on details and really rolling out some actionable items for this particular group. And these were the 3 areas that they chose to focus on: talent pipeline development, career opportunity awareness, and capital investment awareness. So those first 2 very much are focused on workforce in the North Texas area. So Aaron, you want to go to the next slide? So the talent pipeline action team, these are the things that they chose to focus on and really saw as priority things for us to understand about our region. So this is more kind of doing a little bit of our homework here. Looking at the pipeline of who is here in the region, we identified some specific jobs that we wanted to really focus on around the lab tech kind of arena thing within this particular industry. We wanted to look at the career pathways like Ben had mentioned earlier. They use that terminology in education, but they also use that in the workforce development in the corporations as well. They want to look at places where they can bring people in at a frontline or entry level and then really help foster them on their career and maintain and encourage them to stay in the industry. So that was another piece that they really wanted to look at. We are also looking at identifying kind of the training opportunities that are out there in the North Texas region for this particular industry. As part of that, there is a piece of the grant funding that is actually developing a boot camp that kind of gets the front entry level lab tech positions kind of started with the employers to provide that need into the industry. So you'll hear more of that. I think they're kind of getting ready to launch that here in September, October timeframe. So that'll be something that'll be forthcoming with this. But we also wanted to look and see at other training opportunities around the region. So really understanding that pipeline, if you will, into this particular job opportunities. So we're in the process of looking at what kind of training is happening here, be it through our high schools, in the school districts, through it community colleges, or our universities that may be here. So there may be other opportunities that we can get this workforce trained up. And then, so you'll see just a couple of other bullet points here. We wanted to look and see if there were any kind of gaps too in the particular training and feeding into that particular workforce. And I will tell you, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask as we go through this. Aaron, you want to go to the next slide? The second action team that we put together, wait, back up one more, was career opportunity awareness. So that was where we were really, the group was curious about, do people know these kind of jobs are out here? People here locally, do they know these kind of opportunities exist? So really the awareness around this particular industry. We are identifying different tools that we could perhaps use to make people aware of that. We hope to be putting together a website here soon that will have more information about being able to join the BIOT for industry partners, as well as getting information out to the community about other things going on with this particular development. But we also wanted to have that as a place that if people were interested in these careers and be able to find out, here's somebody that joined this particular organization and here's the outcome to it and kind of what their career track may be. So really looking at trying to see about connecting the job opportunities with those that need jobs in our community here in the North Texas region. So I think I've covered a lot that's on here around the career opportunity awareness. And then I will, actually the other piece to this is that this particular group will be doing reports out to this Industry Advisory Council, the BIOT, periodically as well to make sure they are kind of aware of the progress with it. And as we need to bring in other stakeholders to this particular efforts, we will pull them in with that as well. So you want to go to the next one? I think you're going to cover the next slide, Aaron.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sally. And as Sally was saying, you know, we have 3 areas, the last of which is no less important. I think obviously we could agree that the workforce aspect and tackling the awareness of it is going to be extremely critical to the success of the initiative. And that being said, I would also like to highlight the other, you know, vertical that kind of came out of this Biant launch meeting, which I think many of us were not expecting to be so explicitly clear, was the need for capital investment and capital in the region. And during this launch meeting, somebody actually had a really great phrase that I've been using a lot since then, which was that, and forgive me, you know, I'm just a Houstonian speaking in a room full of North Texans, but somebody said Dallas has really deep pockets, but short arms. And so I loved that because, you know, obviously, depending on what context you're investing in, that could very well be the case. You're taught, I worked in finance for a few years. And so it's one of the things that you're taught, you know, is if you don't understand the investment, you don't go into it. And so we're trying to change that narrative. And when Sally highlighted, you know, we're working on a website for that as a landing page. That is something that we are very, very adamant about creating and having it be a crucial part of the initiative, which is a place for people to be able to go and see that on paper, right, that Dallas and North Texas, Fort Worth, the whole region has a track record of producing companies and producing exits and producing innovation. And so what we want to do is highlight that, like Ben said in moments ago, you know, Riata was bought out last week to the tune of $7.3 billion. And I think roughly like 700 million of it was in cash. And so it's just, and that's just one exit in the past month. We had one in February, and we've had several since then. But the idea is that, you know, we want to increase the investment community and the development of that in our region. We want to attract new investors. We want to attract new companies. And I know we have a great team regionally to do that from all different angles, right? But what we wanted to do here was really take this to the VC, PE level, to, you know, private equity, to the family offices here in the region, and be able to say, look, here is something tangible for you to look at to be able to market to your investors. We want you to see that there is plays to be made in the region, and that those are only going to increase in time. And another great saying that I like to kind of like leverage the situation is saying, you know, in East Texas, when we talk about Texas, we talk about oil and gas, and we talk about Beaumont, we talk about Spindletop in 1908. And somebody found out, you know, that there was oil in the ground over there, and it sparked a boom. And that is very much so the sentiment that we have about North Texas right now, which is that the word has gotten out that there's something in the dirt here, and people are moving here alarmingly fast. You know, we were at Bio in Boston 2 months ago, and I could not tell you guys how many people would come over from all over the world to the Texas booth and just asking, I've heard so much about Texas. I've heard so much about North Texas. What's happening over there? You know, and I'd be asking these people from like Japan, Spain, you know, Uruguay, and I'd be like, how did you hear about North Texas? Like, I don't know. I just heard that North Texas is, and so the word is out. And so what do we need? We just need to capitalize on that. And we're absolutely well on our way to luring everyone in. And this last final slide is really just what I was able to compile with logos. Excuse me, logos of our involved partners to this point. There's actually some more that I was not able to fit on this screen, but if you'd kindly see, we have a really great representation of hospitals, and not only that, but also just a fantastic amount of therapeutics companies and R&D companies that are working in these spaces that will invariably do biomanufacturing, and not only in the biologics and therapeutic drug space, but also from an actual wearable medical device space. And so what we've created here is a really beautiful ecosystem of interconnected entities, companies that are working together at the end of the day. And it's something we haven't even mentioned in this meeting, but it's very important to myself, and I think to many of us, which is that we are doing life-changing science here. We are developing things that are going to shape the way patients are treated, that are going to shape the way medicine is looked at. And so the opportunity is huge on several levels. We have the opportunity to help people transition and change the trajectory of their life. And we also have the opportunity to help foster an environment that will then lead to historical scientific breakthroughs. And in that regard, I would love to invite anybody who has any questions or would like to be involved in any way or has any leads that they would like us to explore. I've put mine and Sally's information here. But other than that, I'd love to open it up for any questions if anybody would like me to clarify.
Aaron and Sally, thank you so much. I wanted to say too that at the core of this project is a workforce training program. We will be launching that program in October, and folks who are interested in that training program will be able to access that through Dallas College, through Tarrant County College, through Collin College, through UTA. So that's coming in October. We'll begin marketing that program pretty soon. So you'll see some marketing come out on the website, et cetera, like Aaron mentioned. So please spread the word.
Excellent. Appreciate the three of you, and certainly some good data. Especially enjoy Aaron's perspective as somebody from outside the region, pointing out things that a lot of us have thought for a long time here. But it's always good to hear a third party impression, because let's face it, that can hold more water many times than those who are too close to the situation, like many of us are. Spoken from somebody who spent his whole life, an entire career in North Texas. So there's a number of you that have started raising questions, and as you saw, Prit has done a good job of noting. If you don't mind, post them on the webinar chat, and then we'll use that as our way of bringing up questions to Ben and Aaron and Sally. One of the first ones that came up was Mike pointed out what priority would be placed on syndication between, I bet that's Mike Grace, but between DFW firms.
So I would ask, clarify what you mean with that, just a little bit more detail on that question.
Mike, are you still on? Go ahead.
Marty, I think it's a different mic, and I can
Oh.
unmute that person.
Yeah, it's a different mic on that one.
Oh, I apologize. Sorry about that. Yeah, it's somebody from MED Innovation Futures, which if you're on, go ahead and just type a little bit more and give us a little further explanation for Sally, if you don't mind.
Hey, absolutely. Thank you all for putting this panel together. I'm Mike Wilkes, and just have a quick question about the awareness of capital, and syndication was something that I was just asking about. Is there a process in place, or has some thought been given to syndicating various deals between firms so that the business can stay in DFW if they raise from various partners, if they have a successful round raised through the doors being open between these various firms in DFW, if that makes sense. I was just wondering if some thought had been given to that.
I think I could answer that for you, Mike. Absolutely. So we do have, I work for Bio North Texas, which is this really great connector for what you're describing. We don't have any protocol in place to support, any type of dealing like that, but we do commonly see a scenario where a company will come in and several different partners and firms will join in to kind of court them into a space here. Most recently, I could say, we've had people from the Northeast visit us in a similar regard, hoping to then later establish a footprint here. That being said, I don't have like a clear pathway for you to just, jump in on that, but that's something we could absolutely maybe meet later on and have a discussion about.
Thank you. Andre Butler from Outside to Everybody has asked about a copy of this PowerPoint. Yes, it is going to be made available. As we talked about at the start, that Prit's going to share that with all of us. But you go on to ask about what types of awareness campaigns will be happening in the communities about these collaborations. I don't know that maybe Aaron or Sally or Ben can elaborate on that, but I would think for all of us, just to, by virtue of this meeting today, this is the start. There's going to be a good sharing, and maybe y'all have a particular plan on that.
Yeah, we do. And I appreciate that question. And, this is typically the hardest part achieving the goals of a program like this, because we go through this every day at Dallas College. Our biggest concern is always, the people who need it most are not receiving the message or not able to take advantage of the opportunity for various reasons. So we're really digging into that, understanding. We've contracted with a marketing firm that has deep expertise in really grassroots marketing, understanding the communities we're trying to reach, working with different various community organizations to get the word out about this training opportunity. Again, understanding what are those barriers to being able to take advantage of this training opportunity. So whether it's childcare or transportation, et cetera, we're digging into all that. So more to come on that. Appreciate that question.
Excellent. We'll look forward to seeing that as well. Steve, and I'm going to do my best. Garen Girish raises a point about biotech ecosystem promotion, which we've touched on a little bit. Several hundred leaders of the world's university entrepreneurship centers will be spending the afternoon and evening of October 5th at Pegasus Park. I have seen, it's not unlike the effort y'all talked about on August 10th coming up. There's going to be more, I would imagine, even than what you've talked about today, right? In the future of opportunities for people to learn more about what's planned and what the potential for teaming with you. Okay.
Absolutely. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, please, Aaron.
Steve, great to see you. Great. I did not know you were going to be on this meeting, but great to see you, brother. So absolutely, I think my office is here at Pegasus Park, so we'll absolutely be a part of that. But when we talk about, the outreach and kind of promoting the ecosystem, that movement, that ideal is very much so in place. It's something we strive for daily, in and outside of the grant perspective. And so that being said, Marty highlighted that, we're doing the same thing on Thursday this week, and we hope to be doing that, I think, recurring for the next few years. And so the idea is that every month it seems that we're growing in notoriety, and we're trying to leverage that as best as we can.
Yeah, I would think that. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Sally.
I would just add too that, there's a grant funding that started this process, but really the whole thought with this is that this is something that's going to outlive the grant funding and continue in the region to help really build this industry, forever, as long as it's needed. So just realize that this is something that you'll continue to hear about this into the future.
Kind of a stone out into the water. The ripples are going to continue, and we hope
exactly.
It may not be a huge stone, but there's going to be a lot of others thrown, hopefully with private dollars that continue this as well. So, we've talked all along about workforce and our CEDS and how that was identified. Really, I think both times we went through the CEDS process as being something we need to focus on, but became even more important post-COVID. Somebody, man, the name doesn't ring a bell. Stuart McGregor. He used to work with me, raises a point about what are the plans for developing a workforce to support biomanufacturing and medical device manufacturing, which is a great question. Anybody have any insight or suggestions on that you can share?
Absolutely. I would love to address that. It's actually one of my pride points, Stuart. When we talk about biomanufacturing and medical device manufacturing, there is an understanding that it's not as easy as just hiring someone and putting them on the line, right? So there is an understanding that there is time that needs to be taken to upskill them. And when we're not dealing with incumbent workers, that can become a little bit of an issue from a reimbursement standpoint. I know our state does a really fantastic job leveraging a lot of these types of assets for companies to upskill their employers or their employees, I'm sorry. But most recently I was in Austin about 3 weeks ago with the Texas governor's office, and we were kind of talking specifically about that, about what kind of funds are available to train and to offset these costs for employers, because realistically the cost incurred for training somebody and getting somebody specifically in a manufacturing context, you're oftentimes taking your best person off the line to train that trainee. And so the cost is twofold. It's one, you're losing productivity from your best person being off the line, and two, you're taking time to train somebody with the idea that on the back end you will have some reimbursement. But so right now we have talks in place that we're ongoing, trying to get the state to help us leverage those funds better and trying to get a fund specifically established for training.
Very good. Lansing Bentley of our board raises a question. Are you working with the workforce development boards? She didn't see Denton County or UNT mentioned in her quick scan of the slides, and she's wondering if they're involved. Can they become involved? And specific to that region, especially the ISDs in West Denton County, how can they get involved in the student skills development aspect of the program?
Yeah, great question. And I'll roll Stacy's question into that too, because it's about, you know, how ISDs are involved and engaged in terms of career awareness. So, you know, we have, you know, only, it does, you know, we're representing, you know, of course, Dallas County, Collin County, Tarrant County, et cetera. But the opportunity to partner can be from anyone, you know, in the region that wants to get involved. You know, through the industry advisory committee is a good way to get involved. Through, you know, the companies in your region. What we kind of glossed over is with that industry advisory committee model, the specific model that we're following, public partners are sitting around the perimeter, right? So we're in those meetings, we're listening to what the industry partners are saying. And so in that launch meeting, you know, we had Region 10 and Region 11, your educational service centers involved in those, so they can, you know, kind of think about what are the implications for ISDs. We're seeing in some cases even industry-based certifications that can be achieved at the ISD level, right? So there are opportunities for ISDs to get involved. And as this develops, we'll figure out exactly how to plug everyone in. But please, if you're interested, reach out and if we don't have the exact answer, our goal is to figure it out because the more the merrier. This really is a regional project and it's about including everyone that wants to be involved.
And if I can tag on, I don't know if Candy Slocum at the North Texas Commission and Interlink is plugged into this, but I would definitely encourage you to do so. She's been doing, you may know, Ben shaking his head, she's been doing this kind of surveying annually when it comes to workforce needs and skills development and handing that off to the school districts. So that particular engine has been running here for some time, although I don't know it's necessarily tied specifically yet to the healthcare side of things. So we definitely, if she's not plugged in, I would bet that she is, but that's a good asset for all of us to be able to tag on to get direct response from maybe some of the others in the industry that aren't plugged in.
Hey, Marty.
Yes, Kevin.
This is Kevin. Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, you know, we're pretty involved with this with
I would bet.
And with that, but we're, you know, excited with what Ben and the team are doing with workforce. We've got to have that, right? But the recruitment of these biotech and life science companies are completely different than what we've done as a traditional economic developers, right? Because of some of the infrastructure that's needed and some of the things they've done at Pegasus Park are amazing. But in order for the entire region to grow, you know, the strategy, you know, for us at least, there's things that we're going after that are going to be something that we can kind of piggyback with communities all over the region. Medical devices, I think Aaron made a great point. That's different than, say, the therapeutics and what they need. And so those are things that we're for the long game here, especially at the DRC. And what Kelly is doing, she and Elizabeth from our staff were in California last week, and they met with probably a half a dozen different companies and consultants out there to talk about that. So it's, you know, it's a case that this is really exciting, but, you know, we're going to do some education on our side from a perspective of economic development so that we can all be singing from the same hymnal, so to speak.
Love that. Thank you, Kevin. A member of my staff went with Kevin to Boston several weeks ago. I mean, it's critically important for us to think about the whole, maybe an offsite discussion if we want among the board about the language, the vernacular, the approach, and the best and worst, the things to avoid and the things to do. So Kevin, we appreciate you guys and appreciate you jumping on and tagging on to that one too. Michael Grace had asked about getting Aaron's contact information. If you didn't see it, he did share his email address on that last slide that's going to be sent out to all of us. Correct, Prit? So we're all going to receive that. And certainly that's going to be the best way to be able to reach him, I would think, for now. Great question. Some compliments. We appreciate it from a number of you about the panel. And we did get a question from Cameron to the host: what role are local workforce boards or federal dollars for retraining, upskilling, playing in your work? What kind of federal workforce training dollars are being devoted to building a biotech workforce locally? And that's going to be really more towards all of us individually, I would think, at this point. But is there anything that would be worth sharing, Ben or Aaron, that might benefit Cameron?
Absolutely. Yeah, go ahead, Ben.
No, I was just going to say, the one thing I would say is there are several jobs that we have identified that we're going to be training for specifically through this effort that are also listed on those, I forget what they call those, kind of each workforce board puts out their kind of targeted, maybe it's targeted occupations or something like that. So this all, and of course that all folds in with the CEDS, right? So the dollars, the workforce training dollars should be pretty easily braided with, and fall right into this industry.
Marianne Moon asked about discussions. Have discussions taken place with the North Texas TWC regarding training funds?
We have only begun to engage with the workforce boards. Obviously, and again, this is my own ignorance coming from South Texas. But so we have several boards here in North Texas. And so it's been a slow process to engage them all. Two of the three were present. I think we had a scheduling conflict with the third, but they were present at our launches. And so we have kept them in the loop. We're actually kind of figuring out how we can really start to leverage the resources that they have and how we can plug them in. But that is absolutely an ongoing conversation we have.
Well, and I think too, when we kind of understand better the training needs is when we can really tap into maybe accessing some of those dollars here in the North Texas region and, statewide that might be available. So we got to identify the training needs and training programs before you can kind of get that piece in place.
Marianne, any follow-up to that you want to share, or is that good?
No, we've had a lot of discussions with the group specifically because we have, as you guys know, Cook Children is our North Campus up here, and Children's has a big footprint. And we're having some initial discussions with working collectively with those two providers for pediatric medicine and the expansion of all the ancillary services. So for us to see that you have them as partners with Buy-in was very positive. And Aaron, that's why I asked you for your contact info, because we absolutely would like to get some input and expertise and backup info from you as we move toward what we're going to establish in this part of the region for that pediatric medicine and the support for our rural communities north of us.
So I would just mention in here just kind of how we've divided a little bit of the work. If you've got things that are kind of focused around the hospital kind of arena, that's kind of the area of where I've got most relationships. Aaron's the one that's kind of got most of the relationships with the biomanufacturing, biotech. So we've kind of split those up a little bit. So
great. Then you guys direct me. Tell me who I need to talk to.
Marianne, it might be good to kind of start with me because we had engaged the person. I work very closely with a person from Cook Children's that's serving on this particular advisory council. So Mike can just kind of help you direct your contacts. Of course, Aaron and I probably talk 2 or 3 times a week in regards to this effort. So we can.
Well, Sally, can I get your email?
It's on the slide as well.
It'll be on the slides. Yeah.
Chris is gonna send it to
all those links.
Thank you.
I will be contacting you in the near future for a meeting.
Okay, sounds great.
Thank you.
We've had several comments that have, from different people that aren't necessarily questions. Appreciate Alan Klein talking about my double Maverick alma mater and what the UTA Research Institute does. You see, he's included links there if you need it. Lisa Harrison, and very enthusiastic in support and working with the ESC Region 11 and showing support for this whole effort. Some other kind comments. Lisa did point out that Candy, who I brought up, is retiring, and that Daphne Ricard is going to take on the lead with Interlink. So that's phenomenal. Some others, Rebecca Hallmark wants to be included and includes some information from Garner ISD. You see Lisa put Daphne Ricard's email on there, and some other appreciate Stacy, Love, and Sally's comments. We loved yours, Stacy. Appreciate all of you. Aaron's included that for everybody to see again if you don't want to wait till the link comes from Prit. There it is. Save it right there. Send it. He's going to be overwhelmed, and we appreciate his work. But we probably ought to have Sally's too, because Sally just pointed out in her conversation with Mary that Mary Ann that it's going to be on the hospital and healthcare side. It's really going to be more her running the lead on that. Some others from Collin EDU. We appreciate that's from Bridget Kirkpatrick. Lancine asks a great question. If someone has an interest in serving on the advisory board, who do they contact?
Please, if you have contacts that are industry related or that represent anything in the biotech or healthcare space, please do reach out to me. We're absolutely always welcoming new members. I think just last week we may have added 2 or 3 new members, and so that's an ongoing project, and we love that. Like Sally said, the more the merrier.
And you saw where Aaron and Sally have both provided Sally's email address at the bottom. So hey, you've got it. David Schlegg with Dallas has a question on or a comment on outreach, please, David.
Thank you, Marty. I was just thinking, sort of going on with what Kevin said at the regional chamber. What was interesting is I attended a life science summit last year over at the Gaylord Texan, and what shocked me was a lot of the consultants there had no idea of just basic incentives that cities have for investments in their city. And I said, if any of you guys approached us with a client, biotech is one of our key areas. So I do think as we move forward, just simply continuing, as Marty, you've said, and as Kevin was saying, the outreach part is just getting to these conferences and telling people, hey, we've got a heck of an ecosystem here that we're building. The grant coming up and so on is going to be a key part of it too. So I just wanted to share that. I was just shocked that even the consultants were like, oh, they work with the biotech folks and trying to get the investment. They never think of the local investment involved that's available to them, the local matches that we have for eco development.
Great point, David. Anytime you're trying to have a paradigm shift or change somebody's impression of you, it takes persistence, and you've got to repeat it and be polite. And I like to say, being a polite pest. And just you don't want to overwhelm somebody, but it's okay to check back in from time to time and remind them, hey, did you know what we've got going on? So it sounds like from the whole ecosystem, no pun intended, really, that Aaron and Ben and Sally have put together with others, we've got that machine somewhat working in that direction. And I think we all can take part in that and trying to remind everybody, but both in a unified and individual fashion of how important we think this region's future in biotech and healthcare and medical manufacturing and all the related industries are for all of us. So that's great. Anyone else, while we have a few minutes left and have all 3 of them with us, if you have a question, raise it now, please. Well, Fred, did you have something? Nope. Okay. Your picture came on. We just appreciate everybody being with us. Certainly a tremendous presentation for Ben and Aaron and Sally. Thank you so much. Thank you for the work you're doing. And again, thank you too for continued perspective from Sally over many years here with the Hospital Council, and Ben from outside, and Aaron as well from outside, to come in and help us get everything framed appropriately for how we go forward. I think it's exciting.
Absolutely.
Thanks for the opportunity.
We're grateful to have you with us.
Yes. Thank you all so much.
And you're welcome to stay on while we go on with, we do have one piece of new business. I believe Prit's going to give us somewhat of an update on the district as to what's going on. If you would, please, Prit.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Marty. And I'm sure the board would love to have you all the biotech folks come back and provide any updates, or if you would just like to do a presentation to bring greater awareness, we're always happy to host you. Even if we don't have a board meeting, we can certainly set up a webinar and try to support your efforts and as Marty's noted, impacts the entire region, probably beyond our 16 counties. So we are always happy to help promote all the good work, the training opportunities, the job opportunities that are growing in the region. So yes, I just have a quick presentation. I think Stacy's gone over most of this, but I just wanted to remind you the two big grant EDA programs that are available is that Public Works and Economic Adjustment Assistance Program. And as Stacy noted, they've closed, or they've used all the funds for this year's program. However, we really encourage you to take a look at potentially applying for the 2024 fiscal year Public Works and Adjustment, because that is the program that really does help bring infrastructure. Of course, the huge piece of that is that you have to be eligible for that funding. And so please do reach out to me if you have a project in mind, so that we can see if any area of your community, of your county, we can use different parameters as far as geography to see if you might be potentially eligible for that program. The second program, and Stacy mentioned this too, is that Recompete pilot program. Those applications are due on October 5th. And that one's a little easier to navigate, in that EDA has created a map that just shows who's eligible. And so I can help you work through that and provide more information. I've sent some emails out on Recompete. However, I haven't been focused on those as much because we have a couple of grants that are the deadlines were this summer. So we've been focused on that. So our last one for as far as summer programs is due August 15th. And after August 15th, I'll come back to you guys and bring you more information on the Recompete program and the Public Works program. But just as a reminder, the district, myself, I'm here to help talk through potential grant proposal ideas and to provide technical assistance on those grant applications. And certainly if you're awarded a grant, the district can manage that grant for you. And we're just happy to support you in any way that we can to address economic development, economic recovery, and all of that. So a couple of things I want to remind folks: we've had a lot of events this summer and have a couple more coming up. We had a broadband meeting in Louisville last week. It was an in-person meeting. We had about 110 folks show up. That meeting was very, very beneficial for a lot of folks. It really brought to light for the state some of the challenges that areas of our region are challenged with as far as access to broadband, including our urban areas and our rural areas. The BDO, the Texas Broadband Development Office, is then also hosting a second meeting on August 23rd. And that's really going to be for our rural communities, that they really want to get feedback on what the challenges are as far as access to broadband around the rural areas that are, so many of them are experiencing rapid growth too. And certainly the presentation today and the opportunities it will offer for biotechnology training and certifications and stuff. We want to ensure that some of those areas that have been left behind or have not had access to those sorts of jobs or trainings have that access. And so obviously a huge piece of that is connectivity and being able to take courses or learn more, or even like today, attend this webinar or this meeting. So I encourage anybody that's on the call that's in those rural communities to register for that August 23rd broadband meeting. And I'll send all of this out in an follow-up email. And then the second piece is we have a webinar around CHIPS funding that's going to take place on August 28th. This is from the National Institute of Standards and Technology. And that NIST is actually housed in the Department of Commerce along with EDA. And though that's a little bit outside the scope of what EDA does, it certainly is very, very important to creating jobs and ensuring that the semiconductor, the chips industry stays relevant in North Texas, along with the biotechnology and biomanufacturing. And a lot of that CHIPS funding impacts us because a lot of the industry sits up in Texoma and Sherman, but there's certainly spillover to the North Central Texas region as far as the university involvement, some of the smaller semiconductor chips companies that exist in Richardson and many other communities across North Texas. So we encourage you to sign up for that webinar to learn more about what funding opportunities are going to come down through NIST. Because it's not an EDA program, I don't have the ins and outs and am unable to provide some of the technical assistance. So we reached out to NIST to do this presentation so that you can have a direct connection to that agency. And if you're interested in applying for any of this funding, they can help you in those grant applications. Lastly, this summer, as Stacy mentioned, EDA released a lot of grants. We had 5 active grants beginning, I think, early June. So this summer, I had hoped to bring some other things to you, but really the time this summer has been spent on helping many organizations across our region apply for EDA grants. And I'm so thrilled and excited that we do have a lot of folks interested in pursuing these grants. And as the presentation today, showed us that once any organization in our region gets EDA grant funding, it impacts the entire region as far as jobs and economic growth. And so the last big grant is due, as I said earlier, on August 15th. And then I'll focus a lot of the remainder of this year on applying for the district planning grant, which I do every 3 years. And we have some reporting to do. And I had presented to you the opportunity to set up a new program called NCTEDD Talks. And that got a little back burner just because of the grant funding that was released this summer, but I'll be bringing that to you here in the next couple of months. As well as some changes and additions to the NCT board that will not impact anybody who's currently serving on the board, but just trying to add some additional positions to the board around workforce and education, ISDs, that sort of thing, to really, again, as Marty had mentioned earlier, the impacts that we have from what we heard when we did the CEDS update. We want to make sure that our board represents some of those areas that weren't maybe represented before, but that came up during the CEDS talk as important areas, or such as workforce and education, to focus on. And then lastly, we have our last board meeting on Monday, November the 6th. And so I'll be working on a guest speaker, or potentially maybe Stacy presenting on those tools that she mentioned earlier for that meeting. And so with that, Marty, I'm going to hand it back over to you.
Excellent. Thank you. Any questions at all for Prit and what's been shared? All right. I think it's been a good, productive meeting just to hear on a very important subject from 3 really good qualified experts. This was productive, and I think as you heard a number of people comment, there's some things we can think about doing and maybe work with one another, especially with what Kevin and David had to share to arm ourselves to be the most productive we can. I think Jeff Sanford has a question before we get there. Go ahead, Jeff.
Not so much a question as a comment and a statement. Please. I just want to thank everybody for these meetings have been just fantastic. I always look forward to these, and Zoom meetings are tough enough. I don't really like Zoom meetings, but I will tell you that each and every time we have these, I look forward to them, and I always seem to come away with something more than I had going into it, which is saying a lot for you guys. And I appreciate Prit and Marty and everybody else involved, and certainly our speakers each and every time. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Thank y'all.
You're kind, Jeff. Thank you. All credit goes to Prit. She's the one who puts all this together.
Well, it's well worth it, and I appreciate the ability to utilize this time wisely, and I thank you for that.
Yep, I think it's important. It reminds me of, I'm going to show my age, I saw Steve Martin when I was in high school when he was just a stand-up comic, and he made a comment way back then of, how much did you pay to get in tonight? $15. I'm going to give you a $25 show. You're going to make money. Anytime we get together like this, if we're spending time together, you've got to come away with feeling like it was worth your time and effort, and that you got something you can take back and use. So Jeff, it's good. It makes my day to hear you. It was a benefit. Kudos to Prit. Anybody else? All right. We certainly need to keep communicating. November 6th is a little bit off into the future, but keep emailing one another. We got a lot of email addresses shared with the 3 speakers today, so you shouldn't have any reason not to reach out to them. And just remember, like we've talked about throughout the day, those links are coming from, or a link for this whole webinar that Prit's going to share with us. So lots of opportunity for follow-up. So if there's no objections, we're going to give you a little bit of time back. It's 11:19. Have a great day, and God bless you all. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for your
Great
service.
meeting.
Thanks, everyone.
Tremendous. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good meeting. Take care.